Hey y'all, welcome back. Thanks for joining me for another crafty episode. In this video, we are going to be doing a collab with my wonderful friend Nancy, who is Handi Scandi here on YouTube, and I will make sure and leave a link to her video in the description box below so that you can go on over and check out her video. I am going to be making a, Halloween-ish card. You could send it anytime to anyone, but it does have a more of a Halloween look to it. Here is the panel that I have previously made before the video, and as you can see, the orange is not very nice blend. It's kind of splotchy, but as my good friend Nancy May says, it's just the background. It's not the star of the show, and when we're done, you won't even notice the splotchiness. So I use the blanket, I think it's Blanket Stitch, and I'll put the correct name in the description box below, Die by Honeybee. Here we are. I am showing you that I use the Slimline Vertical Bricks, Slimline Bricks Vertical by the Crafter's Companion, I believe it is. Let me make sure that is correct. Yes, the Crafter's Workshop. And I'm going to take that and the purple mica stain and my texture paste by Ranger, and I'm going to put bricks over the top of this panel. It's not going to be exact, and I am explaining to you here that with the mica stains there is all the mica powder at the bottom, and you have to shake them up really well, and I did that off to the side, and I showed you there, I was showing you the bottom that you can see. You'll be able to tell when they are sitting upright unless you have a place to lie them down. If they're sitting upright, that mica is going to gather at the bottom, and if you don't get it shooken up enough, then when you go to spray it, that mica is going to get stuck in the sprayer and clog it. So here I am just using an old card that I had, and I am taking a small little dab of texture paste, and I am adding the mica stain to it, and then in just a second you'll see me mix it up and add a little bit more. In the end, you really can't tell except for in a couple of spots that they're purple, but they turn kind of a brownish color, and you'll see that. I will make sure and put pictures of the finished project down below. So anyways, I just take my card and I just mix up the pile right there, and I smush in the color so that it gets worked throughout so that no one spot is any darker than another, and I'm working it through, and then I'm going to decide that I want it a little bit darker. I don't really think that you notice that, but I do add a little bit more. So here I am just adding a couple of more dabs to that, and I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm just going to mix it up and make sure that the color is throughout the whole little dab. So like I said, no one spot is darker than the other. And here's the stencil, and I'm not using pixie spray. Excuse me as my words come out difficult for me. I'm not using pixie spray. I don't have it. For this look, I probably wouldn't have used it anyways because I don't want the stencil to stay perfectly, attached or stuck, I guess, for temporarily to the panel. I want this to look kind of worn and like the bricks are starting to crumble and that it's starting to fall off a little bit. So anyways, I'm just holding it, and for this project that was the look that I was going for. And here I am, I'm lifting the stencil, and you can see the look that I have. If you want them solid, you can do that. If you want some more filled in, that is up to you. So now I'm just adding some to the corners and trying to use up the last little bit that I have there on the desk. Also, the other thing when using texture paste is you want to make sure that as soon as you are done using it, you get your stencil and your card or your palette knife in some water, which is what I had already done here, because it will dry on the stencil. So that is very important. Make sure you have water close by, or you take it to the kitchen sink and run it under the water and get that texture paste off. Also, I do keep press and seal over my texture paste and my gel gloss to help them stay fresh longer so that the air doesn't get to them. So now I have this big bold background stamp by Simon Says, and I will leave the link for this in the description box below. And I'm just inking it up, and I'm going to put this over the top of the texture paste. It gives a really cool look. So here I am. I'm just going to take the panel and turn it over, and yes, the panel is bigger than the stamp, and that's okay. So here I am, just pressing it down with my hands and making sure I get a good impression. It doesn't have to be perfect. As you can see here, it's not, and that's okay. If you don't want to get your hands inky, or if you don't want the back of the card inky, and that's not going to show, so I'm okay with that, you can put a piece of scratch paper or copy paper over the top of this as you press it down, and that should help. And you will see in the one section there in the middle got a little bit of double ink on it, and that's okay. Again, with this type of background for what I'm doing, you don't even hardly notice that. So I just decide as I go out of frame, which I am sorry about, that I wanted a little bit more in certain spots, and then I do one of the sides. I'm sorry about that. Extra again, and I add more over on the one side. And then I just decide where I want a little bit more, and I keep going. So this is what that final panel looks like as of right now. And then I just set the side a stamp, and here we are. I have already embossed and cut out the stamp, and this is a Tim Holtz stamp from this year 2021 Halloween release. I did go ahead and cut off, as I'm explaining right here. There's a curly Q on the mustache, and there are some up on the right hand side of the hair. I went ahead and cut them off just because they are not the easiest to cut around. And I am showing you that I used my texture gloss. I had a loss of words, I'm sorry. The words are difficult this morning. I used the texture paste, the gloss finish, over the sunglasses there so that they had a little bit of shine to them. These were both heat embossed with black embossing powder. Mine had some white specks in it, and that's all right. So the sunglasses is a separate piece, so I just took that and glued that flat over the part where the eyes are, and you can see the letters there. That's going to be the first part of my sentiment, and those come from Hello Bluebird, and I'll leave a link for those. And I took the letters and cut them out, and I did the same thing. I just inked the bottom, half in black, and then I added the clear embossing powder over those as well. Here I am. I'm getting ready to stamp my sub sentiment, which is You Look Smashing, and that comes from a stamp from Whimsy's stamp set, and I will have that linked below in the description box for you so that you can be able to find any of the products that you would like to purchase for yourself. And I'm going to be stamping it with Versamark ink, and you won't be able to see much this first time because it is a clear sticky embossing ink, so that you can use your embossing powders over it and it will stick to the ink. And there's one thing I forgot to do. I did not use my embossing bag from Scrap Perfect, which works absolutely perfect as the name suggests. And I'm going to use white embossing powder, so you will see a few specks for this project. The way that it turned out, it worked for me. But most of the time I make sure and use that, as I don't want the embossing powder sticking where I don't want it. You can see my little container there that is really worn. That is my embossing container, and I just put coffee filters in there and they fit perfectly. And then as you can see, I sprinkle the embossing powder over and tap it off right into the coffee filter, and that will allow me to dump it back into the Embossing Buddy jar. Here I am just taking off a few of the pieces that I don't want. You can also use a paintbrush for this if you want to get all the little specks. And now I'm going to go ahead and heat emboss it. And it says You Look Smashing, and I heat emboss to that with just white embossing powder. And you can see that it's starting to change and get a little bit thicker and not so grainy looking. And as you do heat embossing, you'll get to see what it looks like and how it turns, and you'll be able to tell the difference. So as you can see, I kind of bumped some of the heat embossing powder off of the Y, and I go ahead and fix that off camera so you don't have to watch me emboss again. And now we're going to go ahead and die cut that with our Sizzix Sidekick, which I use since my Big Shot won't fit on my desk. And here I am just bringing back in the panel for you to look at again. And I'm going to pull out the Sizzix Sidekick right here somewhere, and then I'll measure my die, which is what I'm doing, to make sure that's going to, the sentiment is going to fit into the die. And there you can see the Y, and like I said, I do go back and fix that off camera. So I will cut this out, and then we will get ready to add that to our project. Here I am just using the Sizzix Sidekick. It works perfect for a small desktop die cut machine, and you can use all of your small dies without having to get up if your manual or electronic die cut machine is not located on your desk. So anyways, here I am still cutting this out, and then I'll go ahead and I'm going to take that and add that to the bottom. None of the pieces at the moment are attached down onto my panel. And I'm showing you what that looks like, and you can see that the Y there looks much better. There are a few specks, but I'm okay with that. For any of you that do filming on a glass mat, if you have any tips for getting rid of that light bulb glare, that would be wonderful. It is something that I am new to, so I have not figured that out yet, and I would love any tips or any advice you could give on that. Just leave that in the comment box down below. So here we are. I'm just letting you look at the panel for a minute. You can see the You Look Smashing at the bottom, and we will go ahead and get on to the next step here. I'm probably explaining to you that I'm going to be putting foam tape on the back of the skull so that we can get him popped up. And I believe I do cut most of this out for you. No, maybe not. I do apologize that you are having to watch this. This is not the fun part of the video. I hope that you have enjoyed this process video up until now, and that you will make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. That way when you subscribe and hit that bell notification, you will get notified each time I upload a new video. Here I am just cutting down some smaller pieces to put on the back of that. I like to do lots of foam tape so that I don't have any parts that are sagging, and that I can make sure that the image that I have chosen will adhere very well to the panel. So that's what I'm doing here. I am just finishing putting the rest of the foam tape on the card, and you do want to make sure that you cut off the corners and the pieces that overhang so that they don't show from the front side. And I am cutting this into two small thin pieces so that I can get one on each side of the bigger pieces right there, just so that those pieces will be nice and popped up as well. And then I want to make sure and put one right there, and then I do put one across the top as well, just for added extra security. There we go. And then we're going to go ahead and take that and put that right there in the middle of our panel. We will be doing some embossing in the corners and on the sides with clear embossing powder. And here is the card panel. It is a slimline. I take my 8.5 by 11 and cut that down to 7 and fold it at 3.5. Oh, I guess I already did the heat embossing, so hopefully you can see it there along the sides and in the bottom left-hand corner and bottom left-hand corner and top right-hand corner. I hope you can see that, because I really think that detail really adds to the background. So like I said, I cut my slimline card panels at 7 on the long side, and then I score at 3.5 and fold the card in half. And here I am, as I held the panel up to the card base, I decided that the card base was too white, so I went ahead and took a blending brush and Distress Oxide ink and went around the edges of the card panel in black soot so that it wasn't so stark white. And I will actually, I believe, I don't know if I do that off camera, I take the black soot ink pad direct to the panel because I thought that the panel needed to be darker, and I really like the way that that turns out. So I'm just continuing to go around the panel and use the black ink, and then you can see I take my panel and put it back up there, and I decide that that's still a little bit too light for the look that I'm going for. And so I go ahead and go around the whole panel again, trying to darken it up just a little bit with the black soot. So that's what I'm doing right here. In the end, it probably didn't make that much difference, but I do like the way that the final panel looks on top of the card base. So I will continue to go around this, and I am making sure, I should have cleaned up my workspace, making sure not to get ink on the back of the card panel. So you may want to periodically, as you're inking around the edges, make sure you're cleaning your workspace. You don't want to put all that work into your project and have it be ink on the back. So anyways, I want to say thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to check out Nancy May's video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Talk to you later. Bye.